Welcome everyone to the brand new Renaissance Museum. This museum was created for all age groups who care to learn about the Renaissance, but it focuses mainly on the origins and art side of the time. The word Renaissance may bring to mind a variety of images, such as beautiful art, majestic architectures, or Shakespearean plays. The word Renaissance literally means rebirth, but has come to be more associated with revival and innovation. My name is Brian, and I'm going to be giving you all the tour today, so try to stay close and keep your ears open, as I will be bombarding your brain with knowledge and little known facts. We will, as a group, travel through each of the rooms in this place at a pretty brisk pace, but you will all end up back in this room. So you can go back through at your leisure and check out everything once again for yourselves. As you can see ahead is the information desk where our wonderful staff will help you with any additional questions you have, supply you with brochures, and a personal map of the museum. On your left is the snack bar in case you get a sweet tooth in here, and on your right are the restrooms. Follow me, everyone. Okay, this is the first room on our way through the knowledge portal. The room is the Black Plague exhibit. Many argue, but most agree, that the Black Plague, or Black Death, bubonic plague, had a lot to do with the origins of the Renaissance. The plague was the worst pandemic in human history. It swept through our world hard and fast, killing 1/3 of the human population. As you can see from the paintings and tutorials, it was a pretty nasty disease. The symptoms were horrible. A gush of blood from the nose pretty much spelled it out for you and everyone else. If that happened, you were going to die soon. But the plague settles into one's body. But when the plague settles into one's body, the first sign was swelling in the groin or under the armpit. The swellings grew to the size of a small apple or an egg, more or less, and were vulgarly called tumors. In a short space of time, these tumors spread from the two parts named to all over the body. Soon after this, the symptoms changed, and black or purple spots appeared on the arms or thighs or any other part of the body, sometimes a few large ones, sometimes many little ones. These spots were a certain sign of death, just as the original tumor had been and still remained. In this photograph here, you can see this person's fingers have turned black and died. Gangrene was a common side dish to this nasty plate. This station here is called our Oriental rat flea exhibit. It is a common belief now, as science has advanced, that this flea was responsible for wiping out 1/3 of humanity. The destruction left behind from the plague would, in fact, shift the world view of the people in Europe. The intense familiarity with death and loss prompted thinkers to ponder more about their life here on Earth. They became cold to the thought of death, the afterlife, and the supernatural. The huge decline in population actually opened up an endless supply of jobs, and people seemed to be fascinated with art and material possessions. Thus, the Renaissance was born. And we're off to the next room. Okay, this room here is our philosopher and important people's room. This is essentially a who's who of the Renaissance era Europe. This first photo here is actually a picture of Florence, Italy, where many argue but most agree that the Renaissance began. Humanism was the way of life back then. It ushered in a new way of thinking and learning. It was created to challenge the medieval way of scholastic education with more practical ways of studying. Humanism essentially revived society's cultural and literary legacy. The paintings and portraits in here illustrate the many thinkers, philosophers, and important figures of the Renaissance. So take a minute to look around. Okay, moving on. This third room is devoted to the man, the legend, Leonardo da Vinci. Yes, he got a room all to himself in here, as we here believe his works to be the most well-known and influential from his time. Leonardo was born in Anciano, out of wedlock, might I add, to a peasant mother and his father, Messer Piero Frusino di Antonio da Vinci, a Florentine legal notary. He grew up in the Arno Valley. That sketch there is one of his earliest known works. It's a sketch of the Arno Valley when he was probably pre or early teen. When he was 14, he left his place of work. He left this place to work with a well-known artist, Verrocchio, in his workshop. This is where Leonardo earned his formal education that the valley lacked. Verrocchio saw the potential and crafted the man we know as Leonardo da Vinci today. Da Vinci was fascinated with the human anatomy, as well as animals and Christian images. His studies and sketches often show him trying to create perfectly proportioned animals and people, as you can see with this piece, Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man. Of course, the works you're familiar with the most, we have a replicate of the Mona Lisa, the Last Supper, and his self-portrait, which was drawn using merely red chalk. Moving on, our next room is devoted to three other artists, Michelangelo, Donatello, and Raphael. I know what you're thinking, the pattern here. These names sure are familiar, and I say to you, no, these people weren't ninja or mutant, nor turtles. But the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were named after these artists. Anyway, Michelangelo. This portrait here is of Michelangelo when he was around 60 years of age. Michelangelo is regarded by some as the greatest artist of his time, as his works were vast and amazing, even grand in some instances. Michelangelo sculpted, painted, wrote poetry, and dabbled in architecture and engineering. This indecent man here is David, one of Michelangelo's creations. The statue is meant to represent the biblical hero David from the Old Testament. On the ceiling, if you'll all look up for me, is a rendition of the painting done by Michelangelo in the Sistine Chapel, beautifully capturing man, beautifully capturing other biblical events, the creation of man, Adam and Eve, the Great Flood, and many more. The next sculptor/painter on our agenda is Donato di Niccolo di Beto Bardi, or simply Donatello. He was a Renaissance painter and sculptor. He is known for his work in bas relief, a way of sculpting that introduced shallow overall depth. An example of bas relief would be a U.S. coin. As you can see here by these two statues, Donatello's vision of David is a bit different than Michelangelo's approach. He crafted two different David statues, the one on the right being his earliest version. The right, however, gained controversy by some who thought it to be homoerotic. Raphael is the last artist. This portrait was probably drawn by a young Raphael, most likely in his teen years. Raphael was considered to be Michelangelo's rival by Michelangelo himself. He was younger and at his peak when Michelangelo was in his declining years. Raphael's work was also mostly Christian related. This painting, The Deposition of Christ, made in 1507, depicts Christ being taken off the cross following his crucifixion. Alright, if you'll follow me. We are nearing the end of our journey, but you all have all the time in the world once it's over to go back and check out our wonderful exhibits for yourselves. The last room is the architecture exhibit, displaying many of the buildings and structures built around this time, as well as the structures that already stood long before the Renaissance. These buildings are, in my humble opinion, works of art themselves. They're beautiful and majestic. This here is a model of St. Peter's Basilica, located in the Vatican. The Basilica was a late Renaissance church. Michelangelo helped design the dome and the building. And this here is the Basilica di Santa Maria del Fiore, or the Duomo, as it is ordinarily called. And it is the main church of Florence, Italy. The dome portion towers over the city at 300 feet in height. The Duomo contains a crypt where many notable people are buried as well. Take a minute to look around. And as you'll follow me through here, you'll see we have a gift shop where you can purchase a variety of knickknacks. We have miniatures of the artwork as well as models you can put together for yourselves of the buildings. We have maps of the 15th century Europe, cast iron swords and shields, family shields, toys for the tots, etc. Take your time in here, as there may be some hidden gems scattered throughout. Through this door is the exit to our beautiful courtyard and the wishing fountain. You all have been stamped for readmittance, so feel free to travel through again and again all day. It's been marvelous taking you through this quest, but alas, sometimes you must quest on your own to really absorb it all. Everyone have a great day. Thanks for visiting us. Come back and be sure to tell all your friends about us. Thanks for coming.